All right, we're live. What's going on, fellas? What's going on? See, we got about 16 guys in here so far. Let's give it a couple seconds to let guys just start flooding in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, I already see a couple familiar faces in there. Where you guys where you guys from? Where you guys logged in from? Nicholas, what's up, buddy? Nicholas just literally left where I'm at right now, which is Turkey, Istanbul. Uh, what's going on, brother? Let's see you up there. Uduak. I'm not sure how you say that, but welcome, brother. LA, awesome, man. That's home. That is home. What's going on, Hobo? Hey, I like your icon, man. Dragon Ball Z. Old school. It's been many days watching that show. All right, man. Cool, cool, cool. I'm horrible with pronunciation, so thank you for that. Cool, man. So welcome to the call, guys, man. This call is about embodiment, and I feel like that's one thing on our YouTube channel that we don't talk about enough. Um, Embodiment and all it encompasses. Essentially, all the stuff that we teach in Fearless has a level of embodiment to it. What's going on? I see you guys are just still kind of flooding in, but essentially, all we teach in Fearless has a level of embodiment to it, right? We always talk about feeling your heart, your grounding, feeling your turn on, for instance, and feeling your stomach, your self esteem, and all that stuff. So we have a workshop that we teach all this stuff in, but for a different reason. Like we have our week long, which is a dating week long. We have our experience, which is geared towards dating. Whereas our embodiment workshop, which we don't talk as much about, that one essentially deals with you learning how to turn your body back on. Essentially, how to really wake your body up and start to feel, which is prime for guys who are apathetic, for guys who are very much in their head. We usually gear this workshop towards guys who are using their head because it really teaches them how to get in their body in the most literal sense by really waking up those dead parts of the body where they've essentially learned to shut off so they don't have to feel so much. Because remember, we all came into this world, children being able to feel and express, but at some point over our growing up, we learn how to mute that stuff out. A lot of times it's to stay safe within our family. It's to stay safe within whatever environment we were raised in that we didn't feel safe. We found ways and mechanisms to reduce feeling in our bodies so that we can survive, right? So all our apathy, all of our overthinking, it's really just survival tactics that we've packed on throughout the years. And obviously without being cognizant of it, we're just piling more years on of us being that way. We don't know how to change it, or we don't even know that we need to be changed because that's pretty much just how we see ourselves, right? So that's essentially what the embodiment work is about. It's about getting you back into your body, trusting your body, relying on your body. Like I love the way Brian says it. Your body is essentially it's like a music instrument, and all the pieces of your body link together. And in a way, they're like an orchestra, right? For instance, if you let's say your foot, for instance, or let's go very specific, your toes, right? Your toes are a very sensitive part of your body. Everybody's got weird stigma around the toes, but if you were to ever play with your toes, like each toe, like grab a toe and maybe start to kind of wiggle it around slowly, really sensually and slowly, you'll start to notice that your toe affects your heart, or your toe may affect your pelvis, your turn on. It may affect your back or your shoulder. Like so, you kind of start to see how everything is essentially wired together, and it's essentially just turning on your nerve endings, right? Turning back on where the dead spots are in your body. And you wouldn't even know how many dead spots you have until you start doing the embodiment work. And you're like, man, I can't believe it. I didn't feel that part of my body. It was just completely shut off. So the cool part about the embodiment work, which is one of the workshops that I never really wanted to take because to me at first it looked just like exercise, and I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to do a workshop about exercise. And so obviously, the more I did the fearless work, I started to realize that everything Brian talked about was feeling, feeling, feeling. Everything comes from feeling. Obviously, grounding as well, but feeling is the feminine, grounding is the masculine. They go hand in hand. You don't want to have a lot of feeling without having a lot of grounding because if you have too much feeling without grounding, you don't feel safe, right? You feel almost overly emotional. Like I don't know if you guys know guys out there, or maybe even yourselves, for instance, who are overly emotional, who don't feel like you know how to ground your emotions. And so that can be pretty chaotic. You can look at women. A lot of women are like that. There are masculine women in the world, but the majority are probably more feminine women who live in that chaotic state a lot of the time, and they don't have the type of grounding that the masculine has, which is why they're obviously looking for guys who are more masculine so they can ground them, which is also why grounding is very polarizing to women. Like, they meet a guy who's very grounded, they automatically feel safe, because probably on the regular day to day, they're trapped in their own chaotic little world where emotions are just spiraling all the time, right? So that's the beauty of being able to have them both paired together. And in this workshop, we obviously teach both of those. So usually what we do in this workshop is we start off with working our way up the body. So we'll literally start with the feet, working on your grounding, working on your Achilles, your ankle, your hamstrings, your shins, in the front of your calves, because there's so much feeling in each part of these bodies that once you actually start to turn them on, you start to realize that, man, you feel like you don't need anything externally in the world. You feel like there's so much interest in your own body that you're not seeking anything outwardly outside yourself to make you feel good, because the body has enough in it to make you feel good, actually make you feel really great. And the cool part about that is that's how this ties into dating and with women, is that think about the guy who's the athlete, right? We always talk about that. The guy who's the athlete, the guy, the basketball player, the football player, the jock, right? The guy that women love. And a lot of the reason they're into these type of guys is because these guys are so embodied. These guys can feel their bodies. These guys can enjoy their body. They're probably great at sex too, right? Because they have so much feeling in their bodies, where the average guy is walking around in the world without much feeling in his body, because he doesn't really need much feeling in his body. If anything, the guy is just probably trying to stay safe throughout his whole entire life, and feeling anything in his body will probably trigger those feelings of unsafety again, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to take you guys to an exercise of really getting the grounding turned on, and getting the feet turned on, getting the ankles turned on, the calves, the Achilles heel, all of that, so that you guys can start to get a sense of what I'm talking about. Once you start to dig into the body and you start to turn on these nerve endings that have been dead for so long, you guys will start to see why you guys probably haven't wanted to be in your body for so long. It's like that for me, especially with the toes and we're working on the hamstrings yesterday, for instance, in the thigh, and how much there was just so much anger in the thighs, or in the hamstrings, or even in the calves. A lot of anger, a lot of sadness in the toes, a lot of grief in there. Because again, our bodies are emotional instruments. And it's the beautiful part of it, is when you have your body turned on and you're out on a date with a girl, or even if you're just doing an approach for the first time, a woman can feel so much more than we can. So even if you just felt a little bit of your body, to her, that's pretty intense, right? So if you're walking up, let's say you're feeling the sensuality of your toes, your small toe, your big toe, any of those toes in between, they have a sensuality to them. They have sensitivity. So that, let's say, for instance, you're maybe, I don't know, standing on your toe, or you're kind of playing with your toes as you are standing there talking to her. It's part of your grounding, right? You might start feeling that, okay, cool, if I move my foot to the left and kind of lean on those toes over there, the last toe and the second to last toe, you might feel a jolt of energy go up your leg and come up the back of your spine, or just your back in general. You might go to your other foot and do that too, and you might get a different sensation. Maybe it'll shoot up at your heart, right? And at first, these kind of feelings, if you haven't felt these for a very long time, which a lot of us haven't, because we've been kind of turned off and numbed out, it may not feel pleasurable. It may feel like, what the fuck was that? I definitely don't want to feel that. And you kind of want to shut it off. But what happens is, over time, you start to put yourself through that, which is essentially, it's tension in your body. You learn how to deal with tension within yourself in order to feel the sensitivity within yourself, right? So at first, it might feel like, again, some of the heavier emotions. You might get anger, you might get sadness, you might get fear might come up. You might have past images of things. You might have images of just how you perceive yourself. Maybe self-hate comes up. Self-hate comes up a lot, especially when I'm doing this work too. But as you spend time in it, doing it, and you start to get that stuff out of your body, it starts to feel like pure pleasure, because that's essentially what's really blocking the pleasure, is all your stories that you have about yourself. And when you're going through the body and you're starting to wake up these parts of your body, all of your stories come up. So it's kind of like hang on a second here. It's kind of like when you're approaching a girl and the tension of being in front of a girl for the first time, or a stranger, for instance, how all your shit comes to the surface, right? Especially the more beautiful the girl is, the scarier it probably is for you, right? Your stories start coming up, the thoughts start coming up. I can't do this. I want to selfie check. That's essentially the experience that you're having, but in your house by yourself, exploring your body. And it makes total good sense why when you get in front of a woman, you're having these emotions come up, because you're confronted with the tension. Same thing when you're at home and you're doing this with your body. What you're learning to do is to go into these tensions in a contained, safe space so that you can process this stuff out of your body. So it really comes down to moving the stored trauma from your tissues out of your body and kind of refreshing that lively, sensitive energy that actually makes you feel good. Right? That's a lot of the reason a lot of guys don't want to open their hearts up, for instance, right? Because there's a lot of pain in their hearts. And when you start feeling your body, and again, I'll talk about the toes because we're going to be doing a lot more of the lower body today, because I feel like the grounding is so essential before you open the heart up, before you open anything else up here. It's very essential that you have the grounding down so that you can feel safe in having those emotions. Because again, if you don't, there's just chaos, right? So when you're learning to feel the foot and how that sends an electric jolt up to your heart, or maybe to your pelvis, and you feel that turn on and that excitement, that's all stuff that you want to learn how to share with the person that you're talking to, or the woman. And sometimes even if you don't share it, she can still feel it regardless, because it's coming off of you, right? It's energy, it's electricity. And so that's really the key, and it makes dating a lot more simple, because again, the girl can feel you. She feels excited to be around you because you give her a certain feeling in her body. And all we're essentially doing when meeting other people is that we're transferring emotions, right? And so again, what we have to do as guys who are numbed out or who are in our heads is learn how to turn our machine on, because our machine has been dull and dusty and rusty, and we just don't have any spark in there, any electricity running through the body at all. I've been on these legs for 34 years, man, and I haven't felt much more than I felt in the last 2 years of doing this movement, where like I didn't know that you could feel so much in the legs. I didn't know that when you take a step, your body is sending so much sensational information to your upper half of your body, and it feels good. Sometimes you might catch me out there walking down Third Street Promenade, walking really slow, just feeling every step, make sure my toes hit the ground, feeling my calves, feeling my heels, and I'm just in so much bliss that I'm not even looking for a woman, because my body just feels so good. And then you'll see a girl looking at you, right? She's checking you out because you're feeling yourself and you're enjoying yourself, and it feels so much pleasant. When you go into the coffee shop, you're talking to the barista, and that's coming across a lot differently than it used to, because there's so much energy in your conversation, so much energy in what you're saying, that she feels it. Okay. So again, a lot of what it does is it brings to the surface what you feel about yourself, right? If you got dark shit in there, you got dark stuff, dark thoughts about yourself, that stuff is going to come to the surface. And again, that's why a lot of people don't like to do exercise, for instance, because it kind of touches that a little bit, right? When you got to go to the gym and you got to go hit some heavy weights, a lot of people's stories come up once they're in that tension, right? They're supposed to be doing 12 reps, and maybe they do like 6 or 7 because they're starting to feel what they don't want to feel. And a lot of that stuff is emotional stuff that they don't want to feel rising to the surface. But the cool part about this stuff is that you can do it in your own home, or you can come down and work with us and do it and be in a contained space where you can have somebody watch you, see you through those processes. And once those emotions start to leave your body, they don't come back. You just have to be very persistent with it. And I can't tell you how many times I have morning regimens where I wake up in the morning and I'll specifically work with the toes because they've given me so much. I'll start working my way up the calf, and then I'll go onto the street and I'll just feel like just totally in tune with everything around me. The colors, the sky, the clouds, everything seems way more vibrant than it's ever felt before. And because I went through the process of kind of getting all the kinks out of my body, and when I walk, it feels so smooth and liquidy, right? So I want to help you guys get there. So let's see where we're at in this call time-wise. Okay, cool. So I kind of want to jump into an exercise. Sorry, guys. I'm flopping this camera around. Hope it's not making you guys dizzy. So I kind of want to take you guys through an exercise of the feet, the calves, the shin, the hamstrings, and the front of the thigh, to really get you guys to be able to feel what I mean by turning on the parts of the body, having certain things come to the surface that which you can process out if you just stick with it for a little bit of time. And I don't mean like days on end, but like literally in that present moment, being able to be like, okay, cool. I got some frustration coming up, some anger coming up. My thoughts are going like this and like that. All the chaos is coming up, right? Because you're putting your body through this tension, and all your stories, they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. So you're freaking out. But this is you learning how to turn the body on, because once you have it on, you don't need to think so much. All the thinking actually, if anything, all the thinking, it takes a step back because you don't need it, because there's so much joy here and presence here. You might even read Eckhart Tolle's book, Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now. He talks a lot about that in there. Uh, releasing the mind, being mindless, and just being present with the body. And again, the reason a lot of us are not present in the body is because a lot of us can't feel our bodies. A lot of us are numbed out. I ask you to feel your body, and you're like, I can't feel anything. And there's something to that. A lot of us are like that. I was like that for a very long period of time. I had a lot of apathy through my body, and there's still apathy I'm digging up today when I do these movements. There's a lot of times I'm doing, let's say, for instance, I'm working on, I don't know, a wrist, for instance, like that, slow movements of the wrist. And then I'll feel apathy come up. I'll feel stories. I'll feel confusion come up in the brain. And I'll just stick with it for a little bit to see what comes up behind all that stuff. And then I might get some grief that comes up behind that. I might get some anger, some frustration, things like that. But it starts to turn on off all the nerve endings. So in regular everyday activity, you're talking to somebody, you're moving your hands around, it's giving you all this joy. Just, you're not even thinking about it, you're just doing it. But there's energy shooting up your arm, shooting down it. Your body's warming up, it's heating up, it's giving off all these, I don't know. I call it steam because it feels like steam sometimes, like it's burning off. So I want you guys to really get an experience of that, so that you guys can start to wake up your body, get out that apathy that you guys are in, get out of your head, because it's really no place to live your life in. And you guys hear us harp on this all the time with the dating. Your head is only going to get you rejected. Your head is only and always going to get you rejected unless you meet another girl who's very analytical. And I guarantee you guys that's not going to be fun in bed. I guarantee you. Okay, so let's do a little bit of some of the work that we've been doing here in our embodiment workshop, which is going on right now. They're downstairs. They're on the second day. Brian's doing some masculine energy back work with these guys, getting on the ground from their backs, their hearts. And so I want to take you into a little bit of what we did yesterday, today, so that you guys can try it on for size, okay? So I'm going to try to bring this camera down just a little bit and show you what I'm talking about, all right? So let's see. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's try to make this work. Okay, cool. All right, awesome, man. So forgive me for these exercise pants, man. They're dirty as hell, and it's just the way I'm rocking with them today. So forgive me. All right, so I'm gonna make sure I got you guys fully. So let's pull this back a little bit. So I would even say if you guys are sitting at a computer table, for instance, or if you guys are, I don't know, maybe even take a step back from your computer, right, or your phone, or just try it on for size. Take your shoes off, and keep your socks on if you like. Take your socks off if you like to. But what I want you guys to do is, as we're going through these exercises, the goal is for you to learn to separate the energy and sensation from the physical feeling of the movements that we're doing. A lot of guys get stuck in the physical, like, oh, it hurts, it's painful. I understand that, but there's energy in there that I want you guys to feel and separate from the physical. Once you guys start to learn how to separate the energetic from the actual physical, that's when you guys will start to feel the nicer sensations, some of the good stuff, some of the warmth, the pleasantness in it all. Like, same thing when you open your heart up and how that blast open and it makes you happy to look at somebody, or it fills your heart with joy. That's the kind of stuff that comes to when you learn how to separate the physical. So again, at first you might feel a lot of strain, like tightness in the foot, a lot of physical pain. But if you start to allow yourself to just feel the physical pain until it releases, which this is a great this is a great way to release, because you're releasing from the body. Like, there's one way to release is how we teach you it, asking the questions, going through that. But this is the way faster way to do it, because you're kind of aggressively going towards where the trauma is, where the tension is in your body. Okay. So, anyways, let's start. I would say grab your right leg, and what I would start with is just start to kind of come on the front of your toes, right? See, all right here, kind of lift your heels up, be on the ball of your foot a little bit, and then start to what I want you to really do is start with your pinky toe and then work your way in through these toes over here. So in a way, you start with your pinky, and then you're working with your I guess your ring toe, the toe that's next to your pinky, and then the middle toe, and then slowly the middle toe, the middle finger toe, the middle toe with the thumb toe. And I want you to just start to gently feel what it feels like when you actually start to bring your consciousness to them. Okay. Now, some of you guys might not feel anything as you're doing it. You guys might feel the numbness that I'm talking about, and that's fine too. So be aware of any numbness that you might be feeling. Like maybe you don't feel anything, or maybe you guys do feel something, and kind of just report what you're feeling. Okay. Hey, what's going on, man?
Still going?
Brian just showed up in the middle of the call. He goes, "This guys." Showing them a little bit of exercise.
Hey guys, how you doing?
So again, just be aware of what you're feeling in the toes, right? The toes can be a very, again, very sensitive thing, but if you don't have a lot of feeling in your feet, you can be very numbed out about it. See right there.
We don't do a lot of movement on this channel, so this is a treat for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Kyrie, are we getting anything in the comments? Are these guys actually coming and saying what they're feeling? I guess I need a little bit of feedback from you guys. Okay, cool. All right, we'll just keep going then. All right. So kind of threw me off a little bit, but yeah. So start to play with your toes a little bit. Just start to kind of move around on them. Notice how each toe gives you something different. It gives you a different sensation in your body, right? Some of them may shoot energy up to maybe your second chakra, your pelvis, some of your heart, and maybe a different toe might shoot energy in a different area, right? Just kind of notice how this impacts your upper body. And Brian would always say to open your heart as you're doing this too. So if you guys have any experience with open your heart, try it. If you guys don't have any experience with open your heart, maybe just ask it to open and see what it gives you. But as you're doing that, play with the feet and notice how it affects the upper body and what it's giving you. You know, that's what's most important. And then what I would do is I would probably start to play with my heels. The heels were when I first started doing embodiment work. That's one thing I didn't consciously feel, and it changed the way I walked when I started to allow myself to feel my heel. There's a lot of relaxation in the heel when you walk. Your grounding turns on better because you start to feel energy flowing up here, the back of your calf. So you can start to play with that, like maybe just move around on your heel, or what you could do is play with your ankles. For instance, the ankles is another place in the body that has sends a lot of energy up, right? So you might grab your foot and kind of just move your ankle around, twirl in the circle, right? What you're really looking for is the subtle movements, not like big, fast movements like that, but just really slow and subtle. Again, so that you can learn how to separate the physical feeling from the actual sensations. Right? You guys are looking for the sensations or the energy that is sending up through the rest of your body. Okay. So again, remember, it's like turning on. It's like using an instrument. You're using an instrument, right? So just kind of play with that and notice how you feel. Notice if any energy is starting to shoot up the back of your calf as you do it. And if not, then just keep playing with it. Sometimes it takes a little bit for it all to start turning on. Like say, for instance, like playing with your big toe, for instance, you might play with this for a little bit, and you might not feel anything right now going up here, but at the time, what you might start to feel is this starts the nerves start to turn on here, and it starts to go up your shin and then straight up to your pelvis. And you might have not even known that that even existed because again, it might have been numbed out or dead. So what you learn how to do is turn all that stuff on. Okay. Um, so let's play with that too, man. So play with the back of your calves, right? And the way you can do that is start playing with your ankles. Play with the back of it right here. And move it around a little bit. Notice how this ties into this. And eventually what happens over time is you start to get the back of the calf open, and then you start to get the back of your hamstrings going. And then that's essentially all your grounding mechanism, right? Coming into your lower spine. Give me a second here, it's getting hot. Ah. Hey, so Kyrie, are we getting any feedback yet? Yeah, moving for the stomach area. What would you say? Hip rotations, probably. From the back of the
Depends on
spine.
why he's feeling down there, but I mean, you could just move the helmet and the stomach itself through the flexing the spine forward and back. You know, that's what I typically tell people to do, and then I look for where they're blocked. And I'll look for where if there's something off in the hips or something off in the. So yeah, hip rotations work, but
Interesting.
But like if I'm gonna move the hips, that's here. That's the pelvic region. That's the turn on. So I'll ground. I'll flatten. You can see this is more masculine when I stand like this and I walk forward. You feel the masculine. If I go bow forward, this is more feminine, and you'll see the more feminine flowing energy. Okay. So the stomach is where a lot of gut instinct, self-esteem is. So what I'm going to do is open here, get sideways. I'm going to open and flex the spine here, and I'm going to put my consciousness right. So I'm going to open, and I wiggle, explore, move, and I'm going to feel how it connects down into my leg through the grounding. And then I'm going to pull it back and feel how it in my back and feel it down the leg, grounding. And then I'll go to this side. I'll do both sides. I'll do it for like 10 minutes, exploring, just open to the sense of what I can feel in front of me, and then back, and then feel it in my spine, how it feels up and down my back. I'll even flatten the pelvis a bit, bring this in, and be able to move in and out off of it, and then back over here. And you'll see in the front, it's here, opening. I could go on one leg, explore one side. I can go on this side, explore. And then eventually I can start to create isolations where I'm going in, starting to move off of that stomach. So this energy is pulling in here and then back, and I can go the other direction. And then in and out. And what I'm doing is I'm developing a neurological on a scientific level. I'm waking up all the neurology here, loosening up the muscles, getting rid of the tightness, developing more feeling, anything constricted, I'm working out. If you believe in metaphysics, you decide what you believe. On a metaphysical level, I'm waking up the third chakra. And on a scientific level, I'm getting in touch with all the gut brain, which would be intestinal tract, and I'm waking it all up. And you can look up gut as a second brain as I'm doing all that. And all this is waking up, and eventually it all connects up. Each part connects and does something different, from the heart to the throat. Throat stores anxiety up in here, and everything connects up. Okay. So hopefully that answers that question. I do it very slow. I typically turn on music. I get tuned into the music, something very slow and feeling, and then I just move to it and explore. And so that I can feel every stored emotion that gets stored in my body, in whatever part of the body I'm working, until the emotion works itself out. I'm not working on physical alignment or exercise. I do not want to turn it into exercise. If I turn it into exercise, like I'm working my abs, and what happens is the exercise becomes more of something I'm trying to feel than the feeling itself. So what I want to do, I'll come down here, and I want to turn it into feeling. I want to explore the subtleties. So even stretching, like with yoga, this is the purpose of yoga, is to feel your body. But the problem is with yoga, if I do a stretch, I'm just doing any stretch right now. I'm not really doing yoga, but if I do a stretch, I can get more into getting the flexibility than I am in the feeling. And what I really want to do is I want to explore the depth of feeling, so that when I communicate, I'm communicating through that feeling, through my stomach, opening my heart and communicating, feeling sensitive in my feminine parts of my body as well as the masculine. Masculine's protective, feminine's vulnerable. If you touch your forearm, vulnerable, more sensitive. The back of your arm, more protected, less sensitive. Same with the body. The whole body has those polarities running through it. Okay. Hopefully that answered the question. Well, you can do squats to develop feeling, but you can also do squats to destroy feeling. The exercise, like squats, are great for developing muscle, And if you can feel, and you do squats in a feeling-based way, and I'm actually, squatting to feel my body, and I'm coming down and I'm feeling more and exploring the depth of feeling through my body, through my squats, that's great. But if I'm shutting off and getting more into the exercise and I'm shutting off my body, and now I'm like putting on headphones and I'm ignoring my body, I'm just trying to push out to build the muscle, I can become a meathead very easily. And if you look at, there's some pictures of Arnold Schwarzenegger sitting next to other guys when he was young, when he was when he was at his prime, and you can see that Arnold could feel all the way down to here. You can see the relaxation in his upper body. You can feel the feeling in his chest and his stomach. And some of these other guys are like, they're locked up like this, and they're like talking and they're moving. Hey, how you doing? And they're disconnected from their this part of their body from all. And but they've done all this exercise, built this huge body, but now it's all body armor to not feel. Whereas Arnold, the way he exercised, it was like what I've read, he would really feel every movement and develop a lot of neurological awareness and depth feeling with every movement. So he was exploring a lot of movement feeling. Pretty cool. And I find that a lot of people, that's why we don't focus on exercise in the beginning when we're doing our movement. We don't focus on stretching. We focus on really subtle, slow movement, so that all that's left is to explore feeling, so that we don't get distracted by some other goal. I see a lot of people get into yoga and then they get competitive with other people because that person can do the pose better than me. They can flex more than me. And then now they're not exploring feeling anymore. They're trying to look perfect at their yoga. And well, at that point, it's just exercise. It's just, and it's not yoga anymore. It's not about developing depth of feeling in the body. So the bodybuilding can have the same problem, and bodybuilding can cultivate, anything can cultivate feeling once you understand how to cultivate feeling. And you stop competing with everybody else, you start trying to be the best, and you start using it to feel more. Then anything can cultivate feeling at that point in the body.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. All right. So speaking of which, man, let's up into the hamstrings, for instance. I did a video probably a couple weeks ago when we were talking about grounding, right? And how you ground on your left leg, you ground on your right leg, and you're essentially letting the energy rise from the ground. As Brian says, letting the energy come up from the earth. So a lot of guys have very tight hamstrings, and they're not allowing themselves to actually feel that energy come up from the earth. So the energy let's say, hypothetically might come up to your calves and it might stop right there, and you might not get a flow of energy coming up here at all. So there's a disconnect, right? Maybe you'll get it from, I don't know, so energy coming up from here. What you want to start to do is you want to start to all that together. The more you have it linked together, the easier the flow of energy through the back of your legs, and easier it is for you to ground when you're out talking to a girl. Again, enjoying that pleasant energy coming up from the back of your legs, letting it hit you where it's going to hit you on the upper body. It can affect your turn on. It can give you a whole lot of turn on to ground out, which is also pleasurable at the very same time. So play with the hamstrings. We were doing this yesterday in the workshop. We're doing, kind of like coming in with your thigh and bending it forward, and kind of, you're not really looking for a discomfort. You're just kind of pushing it forward to see how far you can go. Just kind of noticing what turns on, what comes up for you as you're starting to do that. Is there like a tightness in your thighs, which could be essentially just be a blockage of energy, And if you hit that place of a blockage, kind of just explore, get very curious about it, right? Again, what you want to do with that is the slow and the subtle movements, right? Not the fast movements, but the very slow and subtle. So you might take that thigh here, and you might come out and just kind of come out this way just a little bit with it, and just notice how it may trigger an emotional response in your body. Maybe you'll get some excuse my French, maybe you'll get some frustration, maybe you get some anger, maybe you get some sadness, apathy. I can't, I want to quit, this hurts too bad. And just start sticking with it. Notice what's behind it. You start to notice as you start to do it more slowly and more subtly, that a lot of those heavier emotions start to dissipate if you just stick with it long enough. Same works when you're coming on the inside. It's obviously a little bit more sensitive because your feminine's on the inside, but you start to kind of push it this way. Notice how that makes your body feel. You might have more energy coming up in here, But what I want you to notice more importantly is always what are you feeling in terms of sensation and emotion, right? A lot of times you're gonna get thoughts that make you want to quit, make you want to give up. I want you to kind of push through those thoughts to see what's on the other side of that. That's where all the pleasure is. That's where all the joy is. So it's gonna take you a little bit if your body's been numbed out for a very long time. But again, once it starts to wake up, you have access to that part of your body that you didn't have before, which means you have access to a lot more of the lighter emotions, right? A lot more of the feminine, even the masculine with the grounding in the back of the legs. And that's essentially what I wanted you guys to get from this video. So I hope I've done that by helping you guys out with that. Is there any questions going forward? Okay. Okay, so your posterior is your back, and the anterior is the front, if I remember correctly. Which chakra is he talking about specifically? Oh, okay. So again, the front of your body is your feminine. It's a lot more sensitivity in the front of your body. The back of your body is your masculine frame, right? The back of your body always frames the front of your body. So you start to, let's say your spine, for instance, you start to wake up your spine, especially the back of the heart, for instance, the spine directly in the back of the heart, or directly behind the stomach or self-esteem right here, right? In your solar plexus, you feel a lot safer opening up the heart or the solar plexus because your back is the grounding mechanism, meaning that the intensity that you feel up here, it's not going to be so intense that you don't feel like you can handle it. It'll be, you'll have feeling up there, but you'll also have the grounding device back here, which will make you feel a lot safer to express these. Think about guys who, or women who don't have access to that part of their bodies. Like a lot of people who are leaning forward in the body as they're walking down the street, pushing a lot of their energy on the people versus relaxing into their back and just slowly expressing from that place, right? So it'll ground you out a lot working with the posterior of your body. Same with the back of your legs. Same with the back of your glutes, your lower spine, the base of your spine, working your way up to the back of your neck. All that's going to make you feel a lot safer, and again, more masculine in totality. Yeah. Any more questions? It says, hey, Brian Anthony, it's RJ here. Are there any pointers to get in body when like sitting on a desk on my job 10 to 12 hours a day? What do you think, Brian?
Getting in your, well, yeah, there's always things to do.
Yeah.
Just exploring the movement in your body, right? Um, if you're, if I'm sitting at a desk, well, first off, get a proper chair, and you don't have to sit on it all day in the beginning, but there's different chairs out there that are really designed to help you learn to sit up versus using the back of your chair. There's like those exercise ball chairs or these ones that look like a mushroom. I don't even know what the name of them are. But but if you're using a regular chair, the birds are going nuts out here. Yeah. Let me squeeze in here really quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So if I sit and I can sit on the end of the chair and pull back in my scapula and work, and then feel the energy go up here, and then every once in a while you want to do, there's specific exercises to help you. See, this is getting a little out of feeling work. There's specific structural exercises that'll help you a lot, and it will develop more feeling, but it's not necessarily feeling work, and that's more of stuff you can learn from like McKenzie method, things like that really help with the alignment of all this. Then there's actually developing feeling, and feeling is about learning to feel emotions and sensations in these parts and learning to wake up the emotions. That's not about structural alignment. And so I'm not using the feeling work necessarily to redevelop this perfect posture. So kind of think about the difference between those two. I'm using the feeling work to create better communication, a better connection, a better feeling, and a better intuitive self, and a better vulnerable self. So the question you're asking, if it's about structural alignment and not to get more into like being able to feel my work and be able to relate to what I'm doing, that's where I would look at something like The McKinsey method has great stuff for that. Certain physical therapists, occupational therapists would have really good stuff for that. Now that doesn't mean there's not stuff I know how to do that I've learned from those people, but there's specific exercises I'll do that, pulling the arms back and then doing stuff. And that's not, I'm not doing that for feeling. I'm doing that for structural alignment. But the first thing, I would do is stop slouching, get a good chair, sit upright, learn to work with your chest open, sit on the edge of your chair if you got a chair, things like this. Those are the basics. If you want structural alignment stuff to actually help with your posture and to really feel good and stretch all this stuff out, I would look up stuff like I just referenced and check that out. Otherwise, I would do what we teach is a lot of we'll learn to ground down. I'll teach everybody how to ground down, let's say the right leg, left leg, and then put the legs together, feel the spine. Once they develop feeling in the spine and feeling in the gut, then I'll teach people to start moving and exploring depth of feeling all up and down through the scaps and up into the ear. And all that'll help to take a lot of tension out of the body, but not because of structural alignment, because you're releasing all the extra tightness that's in there. Now, that could correct some structural issues, but that's not the intention of it. So I hope I'm answering your question, because by the time I get up here, I've done a lot down here to learn to ground better, to allow all this to open more and stay in feeling. Because there's several mechanisms in feeling work. And one is, do I feel my heart? Am I opening? Am I in my masculine? Am I grounding? In other words, if I don't have a grounding wire on a car battery and then I hook up the positive, it's not going to do anything. Or if the grounding's shorting and I hook up the positive, we're going to have lots of shorting problems. So it all starts with this: am I in my back? Am I in my groundedness? Am I in the back of my legs? And I ground down, and then I start opening all this feeling here, and it starts opening and starts letting all the tension out of my body. But if I'm not grounding and I try to open all that, it probably won't do shit. So it's a process to learn to do all that. Did that answer? Do you guys think that answered the question? George? Cairo? Okay, awesome. Yeah, the more, like anything, the more you explore it, the more you develop neurological connections. The nerve endings turn on, and then the resistance starts to dissolve. Now, can it dissolve faster? Yeah, if you have really good, if you really understand what you're doing and why. If you got somebody helping you. But with the subtle movements, and a lot of you guys are doing too fast, too bold of movements in the beginning, and that's why it takes so long. But in the beginning, this is the best way to dissolve the resistance, is you got to get as present as humanly possible, as most as you can in the now. Move very slow and explore every little sensation, and then get 1% relaxation. Like if I move my ankle or this wrist, this wrist represents my ankle. If I move it and then I feel it bind, even a hair, I'll relax there. There was some relaxation. Then I move, relax until I can feel down the wrist again. Move and it tightens here, just a hair. Then I relax. I can feel a little bit more down there. Move. And then pretty soon, if I do that long enough, the compounding interest, I can actually move more and more and more. And this is the foot. And then I can start to then do it again and do another round and get a hair more. All that 1% is done every day, let's say 10 minutes a day. Pretty soon, the whole thing starts to learn and starts to relax more and more. Those 1% turn into 2%, turn into 5%, turn into 10% over time. And then pretty soon I'm able to move and relax with the juicy feeling going down. And then pretty soon it starts to get into a lot more feeling, and a lot more flow starts to develop. And that allows for more feeling in your communication in your body when you talk. Okay. And so it dissolves with time. If you hit with consistent practice. Okay. You want to jump back in?
For sure.
Okay.
Let's see.
Get one side.
Yeah, so if I have a right hamstring, it's okay. So if I have right hamstrings, should I stretch or should I do subtle movements and feeling? Yeah, say yeah, do the subtle movements on it. Again, it's not about stretch and stretch. You're just looking for those spots that may be have a little bit of pain in them. They may feel tight, they may feel bind up, and then like Brian was saying earlier, what you learn how to do is to find those bound up spots and just relax them as much as possible. And you're probably going to get a lot of them in the hamstring or maybe in the front of the thigh. So just find out where it's tight. Just do a feel around and just notice what's going on there. As you're starting to do the subtle movements anyway, you're going to start to feel subtle little emotions. So there's more in there. It's just a matter of uncovering where it's muted out at, and then starting to relax in those places where it's numbed out, muted out. So that again, that musical instrument can start playing again, right? Which is the sensations and the energy running through it. So let me know if that answers your question, man. Once you get that turned on, yeah, you feel a lot different in that hamstring. And a lot of times they start off very tight. I was doing my hamstrings yesterday and they started off so tight. And I was like, what? Because I never worked on my hamstrings. I'd always worked on the calves, the shins, the ankle. But I think I was very avoidant of the hamstrings just because I knew they were going to be tight. And the minute I got into them, I felt this relaxation in them. And I was like, man, it feels good. It feels really, really good. So hopefully you're getting those points in it, man. If you're not, just keep playing with the subtle of it. It will shift, I guarantee you. Okay. All right. Any other questions on that? Yeah, the back gut area, huh? Yeah, we can definitely do some work on that for sure. So let's say like your gut, your gut, your pelvis up here, your second, all that, and you have the base of your spine right here. Like Brian always says, the base of your spine is it's essentially what you want the body. The body is supposed to move off the base of your spine. So you might have to find like an exercise. Not I don't even say exercise, but a movement that's going to work with that really starts to turn this on. He does a really awesome one that's we call them like hip rotations, right? It's kind of you're essentially you flatten your back here, and then you're rolling your pelvis back like that, and then back forward again. And sure. Okay. Yeah. So then okay, the back and the gut. Okay. So look it. So hip rotations is one that we do in this workshop. And what this one really does is it starts to wake up the pelvis, the turn on area, starts to get the energy kind of rolling through there. And the way you do that is that you flatten the spine in the back. You feel that you find the base of your spine, you flatten it, and then you start to rock your pelvis back. And so what you're doing essentially is you're learning how to over time do it without using too many of your muscles. Like don't use your thigh muscles. Don't use any of the muscles in the upper body because this whole area right here is already kind of flexible the way it is. And if you're doing it correctly, what's going to start to happen over time is you're going to start to have a lot more energy running through your pelvis. Again, a lot more access to your turn on. You're going to feel dropping into your balls and feeling relaxed down there. Insides of your legs are probably going to open up a lot more too, and ultimately your grounding all comes together. So practice with that, play with that if you can. You might be a little bit rigid at first, and that's fine. It'll start to pop and break loose over time. Again, what you're looking for is just the subtle feeling that comes from that. Okay, so flatten it, then rock it back, and rock it forward, and rock it back, and then keep rocking it forward and back. And even as you're doing it, start to do it more slow and more subtle. Right, the more slow, the more subtle you can do it, the more you're going to wake up the feeling in that area. And so keep playing with that and let us know how it works for you. Okay. What are we looking like time wise? What time you got over there?
8:52.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's see if we can answer another question, man. And we got any more there? Lost it. How do you do cognitive desk work while keeping the feeling alive? That says I lose either the feeling or the concentration on work. It's kind of like what Brian was saying to the guy earlier. Guy who's sitting at a desk all day. You know, doing those type of exercises is definitely going to keep you alive, so you don't wither away sitting at your desk. If that's what you mean, man. So do what he was saying and really practice it and put it into practice. Wake your body up, because you could turn, you can numb out your body by just sitting at a desk all day and not really doing anything with your body. I don't know how often you exercise or if you have any morning regimens, but maybe even picking up a morning regimen of feeling might help you out a lot, before going to your job every morning, so that you don't get stuck in that mode. Yeah. So cool, man. We're about an hour in, and we're gonna go ahead and close it out, man. So if you guys have any remaining questions, I'll take one more, and then we'll hop on off. Yeah, I don't know. You didn't do it on throat and neck. Throat and neck, man? No? Yeah, you want to go ahead and do one on that?
Yeah. Throat and neck. I've been teaching all day, man.
Yeah, he's been teaching all day. He's tired as hell. I'm trying to shut my work off on him. So cool. So same way you would do with if you're playing with your ankles or your calves, anything. What you're looking for is that subtle motion, right? So I would say with the throat, for instance, is you bringing it down to your chest, right? Moving it around slowly, right? Very slow and subtle movements, and just kind of notice how you feel in your heart in this area. And it's going to require that you have your heart open and to actually access feeling in there. A lot of people do have tight throats, and they're walking around with shutting off their hearts, starting at the throat. So a lot of reason people don't have access to their hearts is because their throats are closed. So play with that. Do some very subtle movements around that, right? Opening that up, or maybe even coming to the back of your neck, right? Feeling it, bringing your head way back like this. Just kind of notice what you're feeling in this area right here, right? Is there any tightness? Is there any resistance? Or are you feeling like a flow of energy? As I'm doing this right now, I can feel a flow of energy just flushing down this way. It feels really good. It feels really warm. And so if you're not feeling that, there's probably a blockage there or tightness there. So see if you can get it open. See what's behind the tightness of it. And, you might hit some emotions. You might hit some grief. You might hit some sadness. You might hit something like that. But if you do, don't let it scare you away from doing the work. Just keep doing it, and that stuff will start to open up. Once it starts to open up, it'll start to feel a lot lighter and more pleasant. And that's essentially what you're going for in the end, is the pleasant feeling. Okay? So I hope that answers your question, buddy. And cool, man. I think that'll do it for us tonight, man. I hope you guys got some value out of this. We're over here in Istanbul, Turkey, doing this stuff every day for the next, I think we got about 5 more days here, knocking this stuff out. So, hopefully on the next video on this stuff, I can show you guys some more, and we'll get you guys a little bit deeper into your body, or maybe you guys come out and do some work with us, But whatever the case, man, glad to have you guys on, and subscribe, like, and keep watching, okay? We will see you guys soon. Peace.